Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webcast on Epicor ERP version 10. Today we have Craig Charlton, the Senior Vice President of Asia Pacific for Epicor Software, and Trami, who is the Solution Engineer for Epicor Software, who will walk you through what the new version is all about. So without further ado, I'll just hand things over to Craig.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Great to have so many people who have actually signed up to the event and also representing so many different countries through Asia Pacific. So welcome to you all. We're very excited about the latest release, version 10 of our Epicor ERP flagship product. What I thought I'd start with is just giving a little bit of a background in terms of the technology landscape that we find ourselves in, because things have changed pretty dramatically over recent years, and Epicor ERP 10 is in response to a lot of these technology changes. So let's just walk through those. Obviously, we live in a world of change, and change is probably the only constant that we face every day, and the reality is that change is actually accelerating. So some of the big trends from a technology perspective, data is bigger. So, we hear a lot about big data, and the way industry is responding to big data really sort of depends, industry to industry. So if you look at retailers and anyone in a B2C type environment who are dealing with consumers, I think they've done a very, very good job of mapping how they can extract a larger share of our wallet in terms of spending. From a distribution perspective, there was lots of discussion for many years about RFID tags and how that was going to transform business. I think to date that really hasn't delivered to the extent that we thought it would. And from a manufacturing perspective, a lot of manufacturers now are taking advantage of modern technology to have live interaction with their machines on the shop floor, so their ERP systems are actually live integrated with everything that's happening in their manufacturing environment. Lots of other trends. Everything's becoming far more mobile. And so the expectation of probably anyone who's under 30 is that every application that they need to access, they should be able to access on their smartphone or their tablet or any other device at their disposal. There's an expectation that applications are becoming far more granular. So the world that we live in is one where as I said, once again, anyone who's under 30 and probably most of people who have a smartphone expect that if there's something they need to be able to do, they can download an application very easily and start consuming that immediately. The momentum behind the cloud is building, and so if you look at the number of organisations that have already embraced the cloud, be it for end-to-end systems or even point solutions, it's dramatically increasing, and obviously it's a very compelling story for companies who want to build a new environment very quickly to actually deploy in the cloud. There's been a huge social explosion, and it's really changed the way that we interact in our social lives. Everything from being with people and someone asks a question and being able to find an answer on Google within a fraction of a second, to being able to interact with a very, very broad and extended group of family and friends via Facebook, versus also being up to date in terms of Twitter and deciding on what things and what people you actually want to follow and find out information about. I think within a business context, a lot of those concepts have huge applicability to businesses, and I think this is going to be a new big wave in terms of business productivity as these tools, not in a social format, but in a business format, will really transform the way we go about our daily lives. The barriers to usability are crumbling, and once again, anyone who has a smartphone expects that they can download something and they don't need any training. They can just start using it straight away because it'll be intuitive, it'll be simple, and it will guide them through the process. Obviously you contrast that with ERP, where there's lots of training required, and there are big steps that need to be made. User expectations across the board have increased dramatically, and so every user expects to be able to access, as I said, on any device, any time, any application, and to be able to find anything out very, very quickly. And the internet, which is obviously been around for a lot of years, but now that this new concept of the Internet of Things, every single device that we have in our lives pretty much can connect to the internet. And so if you extrapolate that into a business context, that all of the devices, be they machines on the shop floor, vehicles in a fleet, etc., can be feeding information into your ERP system, which as long as you can figure out how you're going to want to use that information, provides you with a potentially a dramatic productivity improvement as well. So if we contrast this changing world to the world of ERP, and this is a very interesting quote from Ventana Research from last year. In many respects, today's ERP systems are exactly what people don't want anymore. And I think that's a big statement. But the reality for most ERP providers is nearly every ERP application in the marketplace was written 20 years ago or even more. And so obviously a lot of the providers have done work in terms of how to modernize their applications, but fundamentally their applications were built to last. They were built to enforce repetition, they were built to enforce compliance. And the reality for businesses is that they no longer want applications that are built to last, they want applications which are built to change. Now if we look at some practical examples of businesses that were built to last, a lot of businesses that were built to last haven't, is the reality. So one massive brand name, Kodak, probably as well recognised a name as Coca-Cola probably. They originated from back in the 1800s, obviously predominantly photography based. In the late 90s had a market cap of $28 billion and 140,000 employees. And then a mere 15 years later, in January 2012, they went bankrupt. Market cap of essentially junk. They'd shed 123,000 employees in such a short space of time. So here was a company, a marquee label, a brand that everyone recognised, that was built to last, and they didn't. And in the same year, a young company, 5 years old, they'd started in just back in 2007, called Instagram, was acquired by Facebook for $1 billion, and they had 13 employees. So you have the contrast of a company that was built to last, that didn't embrace change, versus a company that was all about change and all about adopting the new. And people look at that and say, well, yes, but Kodak, the problem there was that the digital photography came out and it changed their world. But the reality is that Kodak invented digital photography. But what they did is they didn't embrace that change to the extent that they cannibalized their own business, and in fact they let others cannibalize their business. So I suppose the message is that in a similar way as businesses need to embrace change, ERP applications have to be built to change, because applications that were built to last are just not appropriate anymore. So what does that mean in a practical context? So I suppose one of the most important things is that businesses don't know what's coming tomorrow. And so they can take two approaches. They can try and to drive change and outplay their competitors, or they can sit still and just be reactive. But ERP in either context needs to be able to support flexibility, to be able to support change, and to be able to support innovation within a business. You need to be able to have business intelligence, which is not 2 weeks old and only reactive based on the IT department preparing something for you. It needs to be real time, and it needs to be accessible in a mobile environment. We need to be able to have customers choose how they want to deploy. So whether or not it's on-premise, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's entirely on-premise or entirely in the cloud, or whether or not they want to mix and match and have some of the business on-premise, or some of their applications on-premise, and some of their applications or businesses in the cloud. So businesses need to make that decision rather than vendors enforce that. I think a really important one is this concept of leveraging crowd wisdom. So when I started work, there was almost a job for life mentality, and the reality now is that people who are joining the workforce, they're saying are going to have somewhere between 10, 20, 30 jobs over their lifetime. And the amount that's invested in terms of individuals in the workplace You lose that every single time people move on. So what you need to be able to do is ERP systems need to be able to capture crowd wisdom, both in terms of how do we do things so that we don't have massive ramp-up times in terms of training people, but also leveraging crowd wisdom in terms of enabling end users to drive innovation. Because it's not the corporate suite that are the only people that can dictate how a business should evolve and become more productive and more competitive. It's the end users who are at the coalface that are really are the custodians of that sort of innovative drive, and we should be embracing that. And the big thing that we need to be doing as an ERP provider is simplifying the user experience, because people don't expect that when I come into a business that I have to have a week's worth of training before I can do the most basic things in an ERP system. So there is a real drive towards simplification, and with ERP systems being inherently very complex, the only way to do that is to embrace change. And we also have to make it easier to adopt the system and to upgrade our systems. And the other thing that we need to be doing is allowing our customers to move or to access the application on any device at any time. So our answer to that is Epicor ERP 10. We built it on a technology platform which is 100% Microsoft. Our latest version of our ICE Internet Component Environment, version 3, with completely embedded applications, with an embedded social engine, with complete global capabilities to be able to support our customers wherever they want to do business, and then also now an integrated e-commerce application for B2B and B2C e-commerce. And the 5 pillars that we've built Epicor 10 around are choice and flexibility, collaboration, responsiveness, simplicity, and mobility. And they tie back into those trends and how ERP needs to be changing and being more responsive. So if we look at these individually, collaboration. So the concept of social is such that, as I said, we need to be able to keep the information that we collect, the interaction that we have between people within the business. We need to be able to keep that in perpetuity so it's always accessible. And we also need the ERP system to essentially be able to contribute to a social conversation, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And also from an e-commerce perspective, the ability to have B2B, B2C e-commerce built on the Magento ecosystem, which is essentially the most adopted e-commerce engine in the world, right out of the box is something which has been great in Epicor ERP 10. So in terms of social enterprise, many times I've been sitting at a dinner party and someone asks a question. Everyone jumps on their mobile device and jumps on Google and finds the answer. The reality is that so many questions get asked in business and we do nothing about capturing the outcomes. So it may be done on an email or in a meeting, whereas if we actually move to online and build that in through social, then any question that gets asked, and maybe as simple as how do I do a purchase order for this particular vendor, you're capturing that information into your ERP system. So even as you have people who turn over and move jobs, that information is there in perpetuity. So it's like having wikis built into your system with a Google search engine. The other thing that, the ability to follow someone on like a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed, the ability to do that with ERP entities, I think is crucial. So rather than having to proactively go and find information, I may decide that I'm following a new part or a new product. It may be a new product that we're just launching. I want to see every order that comes through for that. I want to see every shipment that comes through for that. It may be a customer that's either a new customer and I want to make sure we're on our best behaviour, or it might be a customer that's coming up for renegotiation. It's a big contract, so I might choose to follow that customer and choose to follow everything about that customer. So I can see every order they put through, what our fill rates are, any issues in terms of back orders, any issues in terms of returns, any issues in terms of credit problems or help desk calls. So the ability to follow things within the ERP system, I think, is absolutely crucial in this modern day and age. And from a choice perspective, being able to choose how you want to deploy in the cloud, on-premise, and also having exactly the same application deployed both on-premise and in the cloud. And to be able to switch and change between the two, you may decide that you're setting up a new subsidiary in Southern America and you don't want to actually go through a full traditional implementation. You want to spin up a new subsidiary very, very quickly in the cloud, and then, essentially see if that subsidiary is going to work out before you make it a call on whether or not it's going to be on-premise or remain in the cloud forever. That sort of choice should be in the hands of the business. As well as, obviously, now that we're on a full Microsoft platform, it gives our customers a far wider ecosystem of people that they can tap on the shoulder, and typically they're far more readily available and far more cost-effective to get your hands on very, very skilled people with the Microsoft infrastructure. In terms of responsiveness, now that we've 100% focused on the Microsoft platform, it's enabled us to really, really optimize the application so the performance is better than we've ever seen before, but it's also far more scalable, so we can continue to move up market into much larger organizations and leverage that Microsoft infrastructure. The ability to respond to change, I think, is probably criteria number one for any modern ERP system. And our ERP system, which I'll talk about as we go through, our ability to actually respond to change is enormous, because you don't know what tomorrow brings, and in fact you want to drive innovation to outplay your competitors. As well as having the ability to have an embedded MES system, so that from the shop floor to the top floor, everything is connected and interacting seamlessly. So in terms of the flexible workflow, customers need to be the driver of change. So, it might be a customer suggestion or an internal suggestion or a market demand or something that you've seen on the horizon. If you're not changing, then, you risk being the next Kodak. And so what we've done within our system is to provide very, very flexible workflow that you can very easily tailor, but do so in such a way that you're not impacting your source code. So an upgrade is very, very simple to take on an ongoing basis. Very simple, very cheap to take, so everyone can remain current, even though your application has been tailored to make you as competitive, efficient, productive as possible. Enterprise search, this is the example that I was using before in terms of the ability to find anything within the business. We take it for granted in our personal lives. We should be able to do exactly the same thing, to be able to Google, essentially, or Bing our Epicor or our ERP database. And so we have this concept of enterprise search, where you can type in any name or any portion of a name and find out every single instance of that within your ERP database. Very empowering. In a more structured business intelligence environment, we have dashboards, which are real-time, up-to-the-minute business intelligence engines, which you can essentially set up according to what your business actually requires. But not just in a traditional desktop sense, you can also make those available, as you can see on the screen there, on any smart device, on your mobile phone, on your tablet, etc. And you can also set them up so they can actually be updatable. So you can have a dashboard where you have parameters you may be out with a customer, and you can actually update certain parameters and feed that back into the ERP system. And so simplicity, the drive for simplicity. Every version that we come out with, we have customer involvement in terms of how can we make the system simpler. And so we do a lot of work around simplifying end-to-end processes, around building lean concepts into the application at the core. But the reality is we also have to make it simple for customers to be able to eliminate complexities which aren't relevant for them. And so we do that by having these flexible workflows. The other thing that we're spending a lot of time on is, because we do a lot of work in the cloud, one of the benefits of being in the cloud is you never really have to upgrade, because essentially your cloud provider does that for you, and then you turn the system back on again and you're up on the latest version. We want to, as much as possible, bring that concept to our on-premise customers. So even if you configure or customize the application, that we want to have the ability to upgrade very, very simply to keep all of our customers on the latest version. And we've made a huge leap forward in terms of Epicor ERP 10 with that. We're obviously now, as I said, 100% aligned to the Microsoft stack, pure Microsoft, SQL Server, and .NET. So it's mainstream technology. It's fast, scalable, and very, very easy and cheap to deploy. And in terms of mobility, so the reality for a lot of customers, and we see this trend that, data entry is the last resort. So data entry is costly, it's error prone, and really in this day and age where everyone lives in a supply chain, where everyone's using ERP systems, we should be feeding information electronically. And what that enables us to do is move away from being tethered to a desktop or a notebook and to start looking at our device, be it a tablet or a smartphone, as the predominant device for interacting with the application. And obviously, for going and doing queries, etc., they are a far smarter device to be able to, access ERP. As well as our ERP Web Client, because from a web perspective, in the day and age, post the iPad, everyone expects to be doing everything in a touchscreen environment. So our web client, albeit it replicates all of the functionality in the desktop client, it enables you to operate in a fully touch-enabled environment. And we still have the super rich global functionality. So customers get to pick and choose which of the components they need to deploy now and which potentially they can lead to the future, but with all of the country-specific functionality deployed. So we're there to support you wherever you want to do business. And at the heart of all of this, it's a service-oriented architecture. So the entire business is built on services. And we expose those services to be able to empower the system to do a whole range of things. From master data management, so if you've got multiple plants, multiple companies, multiple countries, you can choose which elements you want to enforce consistency and which elements you want to enable flexibility and discretion within each of the different business units. The updatable views and dashboards, which feed from the services and enable you to, as I said, update. A service connector orchestration, which enables you to connect to any other web service or any other external system, be it for an interface or to be able to call out and interrogate another system and bring information back. As well as our business process management, which enables you to continually be on the journey for best practice, and so to be continually evolving and innovating and having the application suit your needs fits like a glove, essentially. And with a customization framework which enables you to personalize, customize and configure the application to meet your specific needs. And on that note, I'm going to pass across to Trami, who's actually going to give you a bit of a 20-minute look through, a high-level glimpse through Epicor ERP 10. Thanks, Trami.
Thanks, Craig. Let me just share my desktop first. Okay, what I'd like to start off with is having a look at Epicor ERP, the user interface. So as you can see on your screen, it's received a modern shell with very much a Windows 8 look and feel. And this is my home page, where everything, as you can see, is very much touch-enabled with the use of tiles and tile groups. So it supports all your touch gestures, very much being able to do swipes. I can zoom in and zoom out. I can expand any of my tile groups to be able to access the individual tiles within it. I can obviously also move tiles around and even change the colour schemes if I don't like the one that Epicor comes with. Now, if I was to access my menus, you'll see they're a very traditional looking menu structure. And one of the things that's been introduced is the ability for people who prefer, especially if they're on a tablet, to be able to view the menu structures in a tile or zoom format. So I have the ability to go through that in a sort of a tile format. And that really comes down to your preference, but also what device you're going to be accessing the application in, whether it's your desktop or through a mobile device. Now, one of the great things about your home page is that as an individual user, you can personalize that to have all the key things that are important to you at your fingertips. So things like your favorite shortcuts. I have a number of favorite groups there, which you can group in any particular way that you want. On the top left-hand corner, you'll also see a list of recent forms. So the system maintains a history of all the forms that you've recently used. So it allows me to go to lunch, come back, and very quickly launch the screens that I was using prior to going to lunch. But I can also have links to other Epicor forms or Epicor reports. It might be certain PDF documents or important documents that I want quick access to. I can add that to my home page as well. Or it might be applications such as Word and Excel that I use frequently and I want easy access there. Or it could be websites, URLs, links to websites that I use frequently can also be attached there, as well as my dashboards. So with dashboards, you can have your dashboards presented on the screen, or you can have links to those dashboards. In my example here, I have links to a number of dashboards, one of which might be my quote funnel. So as a salesperson, this is a dashboard, an example of a dashboard that I use on a regular basis. In here, I can see a list of all the opportunities that might be in my pipeline, and as I select a particular one, I can actually see everything that I'm quoting on that opportunity, and also importantly, where it's at in terms of what task am I up to. So our dashboards can be KPI-based dashboards, it can be operational type of dashboard, but one of the key things is that it can be updatable. So while it's giving me this information, I know, for example, that this opportunity that I'm working on with prospect Addison is actually going to move out. So my expected close date is going to move out all the way to the end of November. I have the ability to update that on my dashboard, and in actual fact, I'm now very confident that we're going to win that particular opportunity. So I've changed my quote confidence, and I can go ahead and save that from within the dashboard. So allowing me to make any updates that I want without having to go into the underlying transaction screen. So it's not just the Epicor Smart Client that has received a facelift. Our Epicor Web Access has also received a facelift, making it much more touch-enabled and user-friendly for those people who are accessing it from a mobile device. So Epicor Web Access is based on our Epicor Everywhere framework. It gives users the same functionality as if they were accessing their smart client, but accessing it through a web browser. And it is very much browser agnostic, so whether you are an IE, a Mozilla, Chrome or Safari fan, you have access to the same functionalities. So here we can see the same sort of concepts are available within the web access, my favorites with all the various folders for different functions that I might use on a regular basis. But also if I was to access my main menu, I can see the option there for me to view that either in a traditional tree format or switch that into my tile and zoom view. Okay, so once again, depending on what device you're accessing it from, it gives you that flexibility for navigation. Now, all the detail, maintenance and transaction screens also are touch-enabled. So let me flick into my customer tracker, which is one of the screens that I can access. And so my customer tracker here is looking at customer Addison, and it's giving me a 360-degree view of that customer, whether it be quotes, orders, jobs, returns, shipments, service calls, CRM calls, all the way through to financial information about that customer. It's all available there. But you'll see there that in terms of navigating, we've got icons throughout to be able to very easily and quickly access the menus that I want. So I can go here and select, my change log, or I might want to call up my attachments, or I can go into actions and access the relevant menus. Navigating through the tabs at the top is also very easy with simple touch on the tab, and I can certainly drill down on any of those as I require, being able to view the information accordingly. Or I can navigate through my drop down there, and perhaps this time I want to have a look at financial information relating to my particular customer here. So maybe the invoices for customer Addison. Okay. Now, in terms of searching, Epicor offers you great user-friendly searching capabilities. You know, the ability to have user-defined quick searches, right through to being able to search for menu items really quickly. But I must say that my favorite search option has to be enterprise search. And as part of the intro, Craig would have mentioned enterprise search being this sort of Google-like search capability that we have, but this time Googling your ERP system. So what it allows me to do is simply enter a keyword and the system will do the rest for me. Okay, so it might be that I'm a salesperson and I'm going to go out and meet my customer Addison. So what I really want to be able to do is search everything that I need to know about Addison. And I might be unfamiliar with Epicor. I may not access the system on a regular basis, so I'm not quite sure where to go. But enterprise search, by entering in Addison, I'm able to see all this information about this Addison customer, whether it relates to their shipments, it could be orders, invoices, items that they've purchased. And you can see all these tags there can guide me to the relevant part of the system that I need to go to. So it might be that I just want to look at orders for Addison. So here I can see a listing of orders that they've placed, and I can look them up. I can view that in a sort of a more of a classic grid view if I want to, or I can switch back into a more detailed format. But certainly if there's a particular, let's say, order that Addison is following up on, I can actually also enter those details. So it might be that they're chasing up on their PO number 42471, for example. So being able to narrow that down and view the information. So I can see some of the order details. So what I would probably want to do is investigate that, and I can right-click and launch, let's say, the sales order tracker, which then gives me further information about that sales order 5016. So any questions that they might have about the particular sales order, I'm able to view. So if I went to, let's say, the Shipments tab, I can then see that that order has in fact been shipped. I've got details of when it was shipped and so forth. And if I wanted to, I could drill that all the way down to the shipment details if I wanted to. So being able to now see that for that particular order, it has in fact been shipped via FedEx. And I've actually got a tracking number there to which I could actually launch the tracking details and view the status of that particular delivery. So you can see from enterprise search how easy it was for me to be able to look up information via a simple keyword, but also from there being able to right-click and drill down all the way through to the underlying transactions. And of course, it's not just, customer IDs and quotes, it can be anything. So you could be even searching for, let's say, a part number, and it will also adhere to any wildcards as well. So I could be searching on anything to do with a product DCD 300. If I entered the right DC, clicking on all sources. So now I can see everything to do with that particular part, for example. The next tool that I'd like to walk through with you is our BPM, or our Business Process Management tool, which is our workflow tool. It's one of my favorite tools. It's such a powerful tool, yet really easy to use. And the idea behind it is that it empowers you as an organisation to configure your own workflow rules and processes very easily. And the way that it works is that it's based on events, conditions, and actions. So BPM will monitor events, and when those events meet certain conditions, it will then perform a number of user-defined actions. And the best way for me to go through that is to show you an example of how it might work. So let me take you through an example relating to sales orders. And in this particular instance, it relates to sales order discounts. What you're seeing at the moment is a sales order entry screen where I have a sales order that I'm going to be placing for my customer Dalton. And at the moment, it's $5,250, okay? Now, I might be placing this order, and Mr. Dalton is asking me for a discount. So I'm happy to give him a 5% discount. The system is very happy with that. But he might want a larger discount. So if I go ahead and put in a 15% discount, you can see how that's now highlighted in yellow to warn me that that's okay, but it's getting a little bit high. If I'm a little bit daring, which I'm going to be, and I offer him a discount, let's say, of 28%, which is above my 25% threshold, you can see how BPM now can pop up a message box saying, I don't like this. You know, this is not something that we normally allow. And what BPM can also do is pop up a data form requesting for further information. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to put a reason as to why I'd like to offer 28% discount to my customer at Dalton in this case. So that's telling me that that particular order has been submitted for discount approval, and it's put it on hold. So you can see that how BPM can kick in and really perform a number of actions based on your rules within your business. So it's now been put on hold. It can't be shipped or processed any further until it's removed off hold by the manager. So if we flick over to our inbox here, and let me just refresh that, we can see how BPM has now sent an email out to James Bailey, the sales manager, letting him know that that particular order has a large discount which needs approval. So as a manager, he can receive that on his phone or wherever he might be, and he's got a couple of options there. So one of the links that you can see there at the bottom will actually allow him to go in through Epicor Web Access and view that sales order details, okay? And he can read it and he can go through it, and if he wishes to approve it, he can remove it off hold if he wants to. Alternatively, he could just simply reply to that email, and let's say he approves it by putting in that word approved. He can just go ahead and send that email, and what Epicor can do is it can monitor the mailbox in which that email goes into, and depending on the keywords in there, whether it's approved or declined, it will act accordingly. So in this case, we send out an email to approve it. We might need to give it a moment, but if we were to refresh that order that was on hold previously, you'll see how that has now been removed off hold because our 28% discount has in fact now been approved by James Bailey, the sales manager. Okay? So there's a number of options there, and BPM is a great tool to be able to do those things. I did want to quickly flick onto the BPM designer screen to show you what it looks like. So you can see, first of all, that it's very much graphically represented. So someone who looks into this workflow will understand what it's trying to do. The other thing that it allows you to do is have multiple, what we call multiple exits with true and false. So in here you can see how if the order is less than $500, the email goes out to Scott for approval. But if it's above 500, but less than 5,000, it actually gets emailed to Penny Lane. And then if it's above 5,000, it then goes to James Bailey. So you can have multiple branching and routing and so forth based on your business rules. The other important thing about our BPM tool is that there's no coding required. And that's important because it means someone like me, someone like you can actually do it. So it's really selections from drop-down lists and clicking on the blue hyperlinks and being able to select options. So really easy to be able to do. So we saw the example there of using BPM to send out email notifications. So that's one great way that managers and approvers are notified of exceptions and receive notifications. Another way that they could also receive alerts and notifications is via Epicor Social. Okay, so I'd like to walk you through Epicor Social in a bit more detail. So let me first of all flick over to James Bailey's social stream. Okay, so James Bailey is a sales manager, and as a sales manager, he's going to want to be notified instantly of things like perhaps certain customers that are on credit hold, or large order discounts, as we saw before, or perhaps, new large orders, new large quotes that have been entered in the system. And he is able to receive those notifications instantly through his social stream. And the beauty of that is not only does he receive the notification, but that using the Open With option, he can actually launch the screen to view the details. So he's received notification that the order is a large order and needs approval, and by clicking on the link, he can then launch that screen, view the details, and if required, remove it off hold, save the details, and now it's approved. Okay. So the Open With option is fantastic. It's like as if he was accessing it from within Epicor itself. But he could also reply to various people. So the reply option there allows him to, put responses through with attachments, file attachments if he wishes to. It could have also links to various parts of the system as well. And the other thing he can do is also post messages. So if he's got a question or a comment or something that he wants to be able to share with people, he can certainly do that. And it could be shared with his followers, or it could be a social group that he belongs to, whether it's a sales management group or so forth. So you can define a number of social groups to which people can belong, subscribe to those, and then receive notifications that relate to that group. So that's James Bailey's one, but Epicor Social is a great way to collaborate with your staff, and I'm just going to flick into another social stream here for another user. But yeah, it's a great collaboration tool, and the beauty of it is that you can actually choose what you want to subscribe to, what you want to receive notifications about, not necessarily just getting bombarded with emails from left, right and centre, but you choose what you want to be notified of. So it could be a particular customer, following a particular customer, an opportunity, a project that you're really into, or in this case, a particular order number. So I'm following order 5463, and everything that relates to that order will automatically pop up into my view here. Or I could even follow Twitter feeds from certain people, certain organisations. And so the screen can be tailored to display everything that I'm following and everything that's important to me. So I just wanted to end off with Epicor Social to give you a feel of where we're heading, but certainly we'll be happy to discuss with you further anything that you've seen today.
Thanks, Rami. Just to finish off, let me just share my application. Bear with me for 2 seconds. Okay. Thanks, Rami. So that gave everyone sort of a brief glimpse of Epicor 10. I suppose I just wanted to summarise that, what we've spoken about is the changing nature of ERP and the rapidly changing nature of the business communities that we all exist within. So the Epicor ERP 10 architecture, in our view, delivers what companies need. It delivers what companies need to be responsive and to lead in this rapidly changing business environment. It's built for change with very, very flexible workflows. It encourages businesses and user communities to embrace innovation, because we can always do things a little bit better, and the ERP system should support that innovation rather than limit it. We need to have the ERP system available on any device to be consumed any way the customer wants, either in cloud, on the cloud, or on-premise, or a combination of the two, and the ability to switch between with exactly the same application being deployed both ways. In terms of social, I think there is a huge opportunity here for businesses. The concept of having wikis within your ERP system, so all the information that resides in your user community gets stored in perpetuity. The ramp-up time for new hires should be dramatically reduced, and people are going to know that they can feel comfortable to go and find answers to things. as well as the ability via social to follow any element within the business and to collaborate with the broader community. And once again, all of that feedback is stored within your ERP system. The ability to go and search on any item within the application, as Trami showed with Enterprise Search, and to be able to do this on the desktop or on any device. So, we believe we've got something pretty special here with Epicor ERP 10, built on a complete Microsoft stack with an ultra-modern architecture, and we believe that's what companies need now. So on that note, thank you all for attending. We have finished a little bit early, and if anyone does have any questions, we're happy to take some questions.
We do not have any questions at this point, but if you guys have any, do feel free to email us at asiamarketing@epicor.com. An on-demand version would also be sent out, so you can actually share with your